Hi, and welcome to Beautiful Forever University Live. Very excited that we have Dr. Rubenstein with us from Miami to talk about the trends and a deep dive into the newest and hottest procedures that are going on. So hot topics are always exciting to learn more about. And our guest today, Dr. Adam Rubinstein, is a board-certified plastic surgeon in Miami. He is certified with the Aesthetics of Plastic Surgery in the International Society and the Society for Bariatric, and it goes on and on. For a young guy, you have a baby face. You've been doing thousands of patients over the years, and I know you have very happy patients. We met many, many years ago doing some panels together, working with some of the larger companies, and you've expanded so much. And top surgeon for the year in 2007, you were featured. I was so excited to see that. And happy to be here today with you and have you live with us to share your pearls with all our med spas and our plastic surgeons. And I even got a chance this week to talk to your office manager, who I happen to know for years. And, you know, you're treating your staff right. You have great staff. And I think it's all good. And I'm excited to talk to you about what is innovative and what's going on in Miami.
I'm excited to be here with you and appreciate the opportunity. And we have known each other a long time and seen a lot happen through the industry all this time. And it's a crazy time in the world, let alone the industry right now, but all interesting and mostly good in the industry.
So has COVID affected Miami much?
Oh, sure. Well, it did. We, like everybody else, we were closed down for about 2 months. It's a long time, when you're trying to run a practice and keep people employed and keep connections with your patients, when, the last thing you would think people are thinking about is seeing their plastic surgeon. It's a harrowing time to make it through, but thank God we were able to do it. And I was able to keep my staff fully employed and paid through the shutdown. And now we're going gangbusters. We opened up in the second week of May, and I think we're just blessed. We've been rolling nonstop.
And do you find that patients are asking you questions about how much things cost, or these are people who have been waiting, who really want to have this done, and they just want to get on your schedule?
I think it's a mixture of both, but thankfully more of the latter. I mean, I think people that have been pining to have something done, busy people, successful people that that have the means where price is not really their issue, suddenly they have time. And, that's true of also the people that have been thinking about having something done and, need to use financing or have been saving for a while. Well, their circumstances have also helped them. I mean, everybody for the longest time had not been going into an office or having to leave their house, maybe even get out of their pajamas to be able to do their work. And so, there's been a lot of things that have changed through this crazy time. And a lot of it has led to people having more free time, having more disposable income, having just an opportunity to go and do whatever it is they've been thinking about doing all this time.
And I'm glad to see and hear that you've expanded and you have many more providers now, and you're doing more what we'll call medspa services, the non-invasive, non-surgical. And I'm sure that has helped, manage your patients and manage the flow and keep people happy with their Botox and filler before they're ready for their surgery. How are you finding all the med spa services that you're offering when it comes to like upselling or cross-selling to your surgical practice?
Well, I approach everything as what can we do to provide the best services for my patients when they come in? What can I offer to make sure that they're getting the best options available to them? Mm-hmm. If you don't have a technology, if you don't have, you don't know a technique, if you don't have a provider that can help when you're elsewhere, then you're not really servicing your patients best you can. And for me, I want to know that when I see someone for consultation, that I can give them a full palette of options, that I can tell them exactly what they need to do and the things that they could do to get a variety of results, anything from something non-invasive, minimally invasive, all the way up to a fully invasive surgery. and then be able to execute that and provide those services for them in a timely manner so that they can schedule and get things done when they want to get things done. And, if you're a painter, you can only paint with what's on your palette. And if you don't prepare your palette properly, then you're going to have a pretty boring painting. So, if you have a palette that's filled with all the different colors and textures that you might want to use, then you can paint whatever you want. So I want to know that I can paint that portrait that my patient needs, give them the widest variety of options. And so I'm one of those people that does stay on top of technology. And I think it's critical. When you talk about med spa services, I mean, to me, we don't operate a separate med spa in a different space, but we do provide the entire list of services, because I think that's critical to taking good care of people. Not everyone's ready for surgery. Even people that want surgery now are frequently not ready for surgery, regardless of their ability to go and have it done tomorrow. So, you want to make sure you can give them the best pathway to looking their best, feeling their best, and meeting their needs. And to me, the med spa stuff is, as you put it, is indispensable.
Yeah, I mean, it's also keeping the life cycle of the patient and keeping the patient coming back to your office versus a lot of plastic surgeons who don't want to offer these ancillary services, as we'll call them, but they are they're major, things to keep your patients happy and coming back on a regular basis. So otherwise they're going to go somewhere else. So I think what you're doing and how you've set yourself up over the years and how you've evolved is really exciting. And there's a lot of key market trends right now. What would you say it is in Miami? What's the key trend for you?
Well, for a while, I think it was people leaning towards more minimally invasive things. Everybody, for the longest time, wanted to have the best results with the least amount of invasiveness, And so we saw things like, of course, your injectables are always popular. Just doing maintenance things like Botox and filler, that's always going to be a great tool and be very popular. But we were looking at things, particularly in the neck. There's been a lot of advancement there with a variety of technologies, the non-invasive stuff, just using radio frequency energies in various ways. Things like, we do a lot of thermi-smooth treatments that's entirely non-invasive. We do a lot of microneedling with radio frequency, and there's tons of technology out there. Right now, I favor the Pixelate, which is a great device and gives really good results. And that's, I would say, more like minimally invasive because the needles do puncture the skin. But, all of that leading up to some of the more advanced techniques. One of my favorites is the Elevate. The Elevate neck lift, which actually, and you'll probably know this and remember this, the Elevate is a simplified version of the IC LED neck lift, which used to be called the iGuide neck lift. So that has had a real evolution, and it's really coming into its own now because that Elevate technique has been simplified, and it really is an elegant way to tremendously improve the contour of someone's neck. And now we're combining that with energy treatments. And the one that I favor that's also used in other areas of the body in my practice is Renuvion. I mean, Renuvion's been a real game changer for what you can offer a patient in terms of skin tightening. And that, right along with the minimally invasive treatments of what patients were favoring, those are the trends that I've seen, trying to do more with less actual incisions. But then the pendulum has shifted a little bit recently to where now with COVID and everyone really taking the opportunity with the time they've got, now we're seeing, like today, I just saw a patient, would have been a good patient for Elevate with Renuvion to firm up his neck. And he said, look, I got time. I don't have to be anywhere. I'm not traveling until God knows when. And I want to do the most advanced thing that I can do. I want to get the best results. So if that's surgery, let's do that. So there's someone that probably 3-4 months ago, I would have scheduled for Elevate and Renuvion, but instead we're really, we're talking about a facelift, and it's going to give them the best result. It always would. But right. I think the attitude now is the pendulum is swinging back because there's time, because there's the ability to take a little window to recover, and people are more comfortable having something done at this moment in time. We are seeing the trend now swinging more towards the greater invasive procedures. you want to get better results.
Well, I guess if you have the time, and then if you have the money, and I know that you offer patient financing options for people who can't afford or can't write a check right now. So Care Credit being one of them, I know partners with you and is a great partner to have, because you can close surgical procedures that, or non-surgical procedures that maybe they couldn't afford before. So I think that, offering patient options, how to finance. It might be somebody who has the money, but they don't want their partner to see it, or they don't want to write a check out today. So it's a great option for somebody to be able to have that. And I did talk to your office manager yesterday about another webinar we're going to do, and she was terrific and great and spoke very highly of you. And so we had to talk about that as well. But it's interesting with the non-surgical and the minimally invasive. So those are things you don't really get involved with. You have your nurses and your estheticians doing those services.
Well, that depends. It depends on what we're talking about. Things like pixelate, the microneedling with radiofrequency, doing some of the non-invasive treatments like M-Sculpt. M-Sculpt was a very hot treatment for a long time, still is popular. And they've just come out with their new combined M-Sculpt Neo, which is a completely new technology that combines both their M-Sculpt technology and Vanquish technology. Things like that are non-invasive, completely non-invasive, or minimally invasive, like the pixelate. I do have extenders doing that, my PA and practitioners in the office doing that. But when it comes to the minimally invasive things like a Renuvion or Elevate, I do all of those things.
Now, do you do all the consults, or do you meet everybody, I should say, that are coming in for consults?
Yeah, I do, with the exception of people that are coming very specifically for certain treatments that are done by other practitioners. I think if someone's coming for, injectables, Botox, and they're not requesting me personally to take care of them, most of those patients are seen by Ramsey, my PA, who's excellent. Oh. And, she has her own sense of what will be good for someone, what she can achieve. And that's really who they ought to see. But you raise an interesting question. One of the business models that had become popular over the last few years is to have a consultant that does your consultations, that does the sales, basically a salesperson. Mm-hmm. They might not see a doctor until they're already scheduled for surgery, which, I know that the Aesthetic Society does not support that model. ASPS is not in favor of it. Me personally, I think it's horrible. So, any patient watching this or listening to the podcast, I think you really ought to be seeing a doctor. So maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I feel very strongly about that. And I see all patients that are going to be having treatments in my office, with the rare exceptions of people that are coming only for injectable treatments or some other, perhaps even most PRP patients I'll see. But let's say someone says, I'm interested only in Thermiva, or I'm only interested in M-Sculpt. That might be someone who would see one of the practitioners, one of the people in the office that does those treatments, because they're qualified and educated to give that advice. Right. But overall, I still think it's best that people see me, because we might be talking about a much broader choice of procedures. If someone comes in for, happens with cool sculpting a lot. Someone will come in with looking for cool sculpting, which of course, we do offer. And it's a great treatment for the right patient. But if you get someone that has too much excess, man, they're going to spend a fortune on cool sculpting and not really get great results compared to what they could get with liposuction, right? So, and that would happen, and someone might come in and see someone else in the office for a cool sculpting or another treatment and be told, listen, you really need to see Dr. Rubenstein because you're more of a surgical candidate. And if they're interested, then they end up seeing me. But most patients I do see myself. And I think it's not only is it critical for good patient care, I think it's just good business, because you end up having happier patients that understand their choices better and they make better choices. So.
No, I think that's right. And you have built over the years, word of mouth marketing. So you doing this hands-on, you meeting everybody, you having that good bedside manner and that personality has helped you to grow your practice with that word of mouth marketing, where somebody's going to refer a friend or a family member. And I've heard people over and over in, in the area talking about you, which is great. And, honestly, they even compare you to some of the top New York doctors. And I don't know if it's right to say compare, but, being in Miami, you would think, wow, you pay New York prices, and you don't. So I've told people who live in Manhattan, forget about the $40,000 facelifts and go to Miami, go to Dr. Rubenstein, you don't have to stay in New York City and pay Fifth Avenue prices. So I think you're doing something very right by being hands-on, meeting everybody, and maybe they're not right for surgery now, like you said, but ultimately maybe they are, or maybe they're not the candidate for something, but you can talk them into being a physician is a very different position, than somebody who's just doing a consult. But those people who are doing the consults, they talk to and see first. So they have to be trained by you. And I'm sure they are. But when I think of you, overall, what would I tell people about you and your expertise? What would you say your top, like, one or two things that you are an expert in?
Well, people often ask, who's the best in this, or what are you the best at? That's a question that comes up a lot. And my answer, it may sound like a cop-out, but it's really not. I don't think there's any one best at anything. You talk about the New York surgeons, and for the longest time, back when you and I were new in this business, which is, I can say for me at least, a long time ago, there was a sense that there were niches, that there was the face guy, and there was a nose guy, and there was, and she is really good at liposuction, and you'd have the experts in their niche. And here in Miami, there's a little bit of that, but not as much. And I think even in New York, there's still a segment of practitioners that are, kind of pigeonholed into their procedure, and they're really, really good at it, and that's what they stick to. I have a list of things I like to do, but what I love about what I do is the diversity. So, if I don't feel comfortable with something, I will refer it out. There's a short list of things that I do that with. But, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see we do a wide variety of just about everything. I always tell patients I operate from head to toe, but we don't do a lot of toes. I could do a facelift one day. I could do a mastopexy and augmentation, implant exchange. We can do a total body lift. We could do arms. We could do thighs, fat transfers. And I love the diversity of what I do. So I think really the differentiator for me is not necessarily the procedure, although the short list of things that I really love to do, I like doing facelifts, especially secondaries where we're really making some refinements for people. I love doing complicated breast redos. They're very difficult and challenging, and I think make really great improvements in someone who maybe didn't have the best result at first. And body contouring after weight loss has been a big part of my practice for a long time. We do everything. One of my favorite operations, everyone that works in my office will tell you, are the arms. I love brachioplasties because the results are just instant. That's a magic moment that I share with them the next day after surgery, when I'm taking down the ACE wraps that are on their arms from above the wrist all the way to the shoulder. And we take that down and take a look, and they get a look on their face. They're seeing many times for the first time in their life a smooth, sleek, tapered arm that they've never had before. And that's a magical moment. I'd say more often than not, the patients are driven to tears because they're so overwhelmed. Those are the things I love about what I do. I wouldn't say that, and I don't believe there's any best of anything. I guess that's where I was going originally.
Okay.
I think there are a lot of really good surgeons, and what makes someone really good, proper training, caring, actually giving a damn about the patient's well-being and making sure you're giving the best advice, and then, doing your very best every time. And I don't think there's a lot of business decisions people make that aren't really in the interest of the best care for a patient. And I think you really need to prioritize differently. You need to prioritize the best care for the patient. And if it costs me a little bit more and it makes me a little bit less, I'm okay with that. Because when I lay down in bed at night, I do well enough. I'm not worried about a couple dollars here or there, thank God. What I am worried about is every single detail for all of my patients. I want to make sure I'm doing the best that I can for whoever walks through my operating room door, whoever walks in my office. And, I feel good that I can say that I'm doing that now for my people.
which is great. And, you know, you hear that it's from your heart. And I think that's really important. I'm sure when you do consults, people feel that. And that's wonderful. What would you say are the challenges to the market growth right now? What are you seeing in Miami?
Uh, I think there's been growth. I think because of everything that the perfect storm that COVID has created has allowed for growth of volume. People coming in and feeling able and ready and less limited by work, less limited by budget. Um, but I think where I'm seeing maybe a little bit of a speed bump is in technology. I think the acquisition of technology now is difficult for most practices. Industry is not innovating in the same pace as they normally would when it's a normal moving market. So we're not seeing that, game-changing technology being introduced as much. There's been some, but normally it's a very frenetic
Oh,
pace. And now it's, we got this coming down the pike. You got to wait. It's, we're going to have it, but and then launches. I think because we don't have conferences now. I mean, you can't get together.
right.
I miss them. God, I miss seeing the latest and greatest, going through the exhibit hall, seeing you and everybody else in the industry, and trading notes. There's been less innovation. And I think that to me has been the speed bump for growth. In an individual practice sense, it depends on the practice's position. If like many of us, if there's been good flow, I think now is actually a time for opportunity to grow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing the same thing, spending more time, the doctor's spending much more time with each patient, seeing less patients, but spending more time and getting them to get more procedures, and also getting to bond and get to know them, because you're not rushing out to go to a conference, every month or every other week. Are you doing any of the virtual conferences? Because I know there's so many coming up.
I've done some. Yeah, we've done some. It's not the same. You don't get the same interaction, and there's a little bit of Q&A. There's you get to present your ideas and show your results, and that's great. And you do get to see other people's presentations. But for me, the live meeting is always going to be the best venue to really trade ideas. And a lot of the ideas that I get are things I pick up, and new techniques that I try are off the cuff things that in a virtual meeting, unless you knew to go seek it out, you wouldn't see.
Right.
When you're going through and you see a list of presentations, or there's a vendor there that has some new equipment that you haven't heard of before, you get a lot of stuff off the cuff, And so I think that's lacking.
Yeah, I mean, there is a big difference for all of us without having the trade shows. I totally agree. But we're all keeping busy, and we're all finding other things to keep us busy. And I've had a virtual business for a long time, but now it's becoming even more virtual.
Yeah, I think we've done the same thing. I've always done virtual consultations because I'm blessed to have patients that are seeking me out from around the world. So long before there was COVID, we were doing virtual consultations, and we have a whole part of my website set up for it. I've done them on Zoom, I've done them on FaceTime, I've done them just over the phone, I've done them in Skype. We have a whole process that we follow and have for many years, because we've been able to accommodate many patients coming from other countries and other parts of the United States. I think it's true because of COVID. That's another trend that we've seen, is that now just about everybody is doing virtual consultations.
Are you charging for your consults virtually?
I don't. We thought about it. It took me, I'll tell you, it's been a real evolution in my practice, because I've always felt like it's a barrier to a lot of patients to come see you if you're going to charge a fee for that. But then the flip side of that is, well, you have a certain amount of expertise that has a value, and you place it on the consult. So I get both sides of the argument. And in Miami, it's a very difficult market in terms of competition. And so I would rather make no money on a consultation, but be able to see patients that otherwise are going to go to the chop shops around town, or other practice, maybe even other reputable practices that are not charging consultation fees, because I feel that there's an opportunity cost to maybe valuing my time the way I should, but I'm not sure patients will see it that way. I mean, Miami is a pretty competitive market. In other markets that don't have as much competition, I think it probably is a great idea to be charging for your virtual and in-person consultations, both of which I don't charge for. But the virtual, I think I probably will in a little bit more time, just because I actually spend, it takes me arguably as much or more time to do a virtual consultation and more staff time because there's a lot of coordination to get it done. So in that respect, I think we probably should be charging for virtual consultations just for the value of our resources being used. But it took me a while just to charge a no-show fee. So
I guess what you also have to do is analyze how many patients are getting these virtual consults, and then how many are actually booking and coming in. So if not tire kickers and your staff has weeded them out at the beginning before they even get to a virtual consult, I don't know your percentages, but if they're high, then what you're doing is right for you. And Miami is a very competitive market. Beverly Hills is, New York City is. There's no question. People look at Miami as not as competitive, but boy, we know that it is.
Well, Miami, I think, has more plastic surgeons per capita, than any other major city. And, because you have more dense population in New York and LA. So we're overrun with not only plastic surgeons, but people who like to think of themselves as plastic surgeons, the more charlatan practices. But, you raise a good point. A lot of what we do is based upon our monitoring and you're always assessing the process and the results. You got to look at your ROI, not just dollar wise. You're looking at it ROI versus resource and man hours and staffing. And I've worked with a number of people, and you and I have discussed this stuff in the past too. I think it's important, once you grow to a certain size of practice, to have someone consulting that does that, just that, for a living. When you're ready to really grow, I think the real growth opportunity is getting someone like you to come in and take a look at a practice and say, okay, well, here's where you're leaking, here's where you're hitting the nail on the head, and here's some opportunity where you can improve. And I think we can improve your flow, improve your efficiency. You should be charging, or you're charging too much, or you're not charging enough. All of that. The surgeon cannot have the perspective. He or she is not an expert in everything. And for sure, most plastic surgeons are terrible business people, because we really care more about taking care of people medically and surgically, and not, how we're going to make the next dime. And it's important to have an expert like you come in and take a look and really do a biopsy of the practice and get a sense for where can you improve. And this, now with COVID, if you have the flow that many of us do, and there's the opportunity now to really take a look, now's a great time to be looking for that. So, before you ask me about growth, I think we're in a growth phase now, and that's the right time, in my opinion, to reassess and kind of fine tune your processes.
Yeah, and of course I agree with you, because we get lots of people asking us lots of questions, but we also find that a lot of physicians, and I'm glad you said it first, are very good surgeons or physicians, but they're not good business people. And you're not taught business and marketing in medical school, and that's okay. I mean, you do what you're good at, but you have to be smart enough, like you said, to hire people to come in. And unfortunately, a lot of physicians don't want to spend the money now. They want to hire inside marketing. They want to hire inside people to be consultants, and they wear 20 hats, and they never really get the job done right, even if they're paying them the big bucks. So I appreciate your awareness of that. And not to keep you much longer, but what is the key takeaway for expanding practices today? Obviously, we talked about the consultant, having somebody come in from the outside. We even do mystery shopping, where we'll make phone calls or we'll go in. We don't go in as much now, but we do go to do the mystery calls to figure out what is going wrong, or where the patient coordinator, the one doing the consults, how come they're not closing? What is their closing rate? So, it's important that you see all of that. And it seems like you have your eyes on everything. You have a mid-sized practice. You have your, I guess you just have a handle on it. You have an amazing manager. So you have some good staff. So you have things, kind of a well-oiled machine going, where a lot of doctors really just want to be in the OR, and they're not really looking and being the leader in their practice. as you know, but I guess one of the key takeaways from you, and then I'll let you get back to your patients, because I know you have patients tonight.
Well, I think you mentioned all the high points in terms of looking at growth. You're talking about expanding practices. I think there's a few things that you have to bear in mind. It costs money to make money, and it's an old adage, and it's true. It's an old adage because it never ceases to be true, and you have to make an investment in your own growth. Now, whether that investment comes in new technology that you're going to add to the practice that now gives you an opportunity to provide services you couldn't provide before, that's a good way to expand. Adding an extender, getting a PA, a nurse practitioner, an esthetician, someone that can come in and be doing services when you're not, because there's only one, in a solo practice like mine, I don't have any other doctors in my practice. In a solo practice like mine, if I'm not working, I'm not making money unless I got other people doing stuff. And I can't be everything to everyone all the time. So I needed to find really great, talented estheticians that take good care of people. I found a great PA who does really good work and cares about what she does, and patients love her. I do have a fantastic manager, and I'm blessed with that. I think right now I'm in a place where my staff is really great, but you don't get there in a vacuum, and you can't get there by yourself. And what led me to the point I'm in now is having consultants come in, take a look at how we do things. What is our process? How can we improve it? I mean, the simplest thing, like adding a no-show fee, and I'm telling you, I struggled with this forever because I really felt like I didn't want to charge. I didn't want to create a barrier. But we were starting to see such a significant amount of no-shows that if our patients didn't have some kind of skin in the game, it was no skin off their back to just, it's raining, I'm not going to go today. So, and that screws up your schedule and it really hurts your practice. So something as simple as that, I had to have it kind of pounded into me from, various people that consult in my practice in different positions.
Right.
Look, do it. And I did it. Oh my God, I should have done it 10 years prior. Really, it makes such a difference. And these are the little pearls that an objective observer walking in who has the experience and knowledge, take a look. And that's another investment in your practice. Yeah, it's not cheap to have someone come in. You're going to spend, $10,000 to have someone give you a really good once over or more. And if you're going to, I would urge you to consider engaging someone long-term, to have someone in the practice 6 months or a year, as extra eyes and ears, someone to bounce things off of, someone to help guide improvements. That's a great way to help yourself expand. So, I guess the three takeaways, you got to have technology and the way to do services if you don't already have it. You got to have people to provide the services when you can't. And you need an objective set of eyes to help you understand how to grow and how to maximize your flow and your efficiency. And, those are the three things that can really help if you're thinking about expanding.
And you've answered a lot of the questions that have actually come in. And one of the other questions that came in was, since you were talking about the no-show, they all want to know what you charge for no-show.
It almost doesn't matter. We looked at, it's an interesting question, and the answer is to me very interesting because I struggle with that too. It's okay, all right, well, so you talk me into it, I'll charge a no-show fee, but then how are we going to do it? And obviously you can't just try and reach someone, hey, you didn't show up, give me money. That's not going to work. So up front, we take credit card information, and what we do is authorize $1 on the card to make sure it's a valid card. And every now and then someone tries to give you a nonsense number, and we call them back and say, listen, I think we got your number incorrect. I'm sorry, I just want to confirm it with you. We really need to have a valid card to be able to hold your appointment with Dr. Rubenstein. If we don't have that, I certainly understand you can call back, but I won't be able to hold your appointment with him. And then it gets real and people give you the real information if they're trying to game you. But we only authorize $1 up front. We tell them, unless you cancel your appointment 48 hours in advance, you'll be charged a $50 no-show fee. And it's a nominal amount, but $50 is enough for people to feel like they've got skin in the game. They don't want to burn a $50 bill. So, that is enough commitment that my no-show rate, it could have been as high as 50% at sometimes. And now, I'd say, if we have credit card numbers on everybody like we're supposed to, I'll see 8 to 10 new consults in a day. If one of them no-shows, I'm actually surprised.
Wow. Well, you're lucky. You're doing everything right. You've step by step. You've taken, you've had your challenges. You've grown up in your business, and I'm proud to see, you thriving. We do have a handout, and I decided that the handout today would be about making your medical spa a profit center. And interesting enough, and that was Aesthetic Authority had published that last month. But it was interesting because they said to me, there's a lot of, or it was part of a discussion, there's a lot of physicians like yourself that have medi spas, but don't identify it as a medi spa, which is fine. You don't need to identify. It doesn't need to be a separate building. But we are seeing a lot of medi spa expansions and startups, even in the COVID times, which is interesting, of all sizes, from 6 to 12 rooms to 5 to 7 locations. Interesting. So don't worry, nothing really in Miami near you.
I don't
But
worry about that. Listen, as long as you're sending patients to me from New York, I'm happy. You can send them all down. That's fine. We'll take good care of them, and they're going to pay a lot less.
it's amazing. I mean, your hands are just as good as theirs, and it is quite amazing. And I think we should probably do a webinar just on that, But I thank you for your time today. It was wonderful. I will catch up with you and talk to you further. And I'm glad to see you doing so well.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me. I'm always happy to speak with you on any topic that's helpful to people that are watching and listening. Check out my Instagram. We have a lot of good stuff in there too, at Dr. Rubenstein and at Plastic Surgery Truths, because the truth matters.
Absolutely. And it was great to see you. Have a great weekend. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you.
And we also have a complete survey that's real quick and fast for those of you at the end of the event. You will get an email, so we always appreciate that. And we always offer a practice management tip, something old, something new, how to increase your bottom line and bring new revenue into your practice. And that is the reason why I do, through the Beautiful Forever University, a lot of ongoing education. We do have a digital resource guide, Beautifully Profitable, and it's 6th edition. And we are offering, with the discount code for the version, the discount code is actually profit. So if you use that on our website, beautifulforever.com, you'll learn a lot from the book. And if you're interested in expanding your practice, fall season, any season, we're here to help you. And we are doing complimentary consults at this time. So we look forward to meeting you personally, and want you to save the dates because we have some open discussions coming up that are really interesting. We have an attorney coming in, and that is Jeffrey Siegel, pretty well known, on November 13th. And then we go into educating women on balancing hormones, which is guaranteed to grow your patient base, because obviously your patient base is probably 80 or 90% if you're listening to this and you're not a hair restoration doctor. And then what's happening in the med spa, the skincare and the retail. Lori Kane is amazing. We have her coming back on December 16th. So I hope to see you all. Save the dates, share the links, follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And great to see you today.